Namaskar everyone and welcome to our 27th day of the Ramayana Satsanga. Lakshmi Natha Samarambham Natha Yamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yugma Rugma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmad Gurur Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindhoho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम् यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारी परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम् कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् वेदवेद्ये परे पुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजे वेदप्राचेत सादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना. Praying to the lotus feet of Sri Ramachandra and Acharya, let us start today's topic. So, in yesterday's satsang, we saw how Shurpanaka came there and she wanted that Rama should take her up and, she wanted to devour Sita. And then Lakshmana cut off her nose and howling in pain and anger, Shurpanaka ran to complain to Kharadushana. Now she reaches the Janasthana, this place called Janasthana, and she goes and rushes to Kara and Dushana. They are shocked to see her like this, bleeding from her nose and ears and disfigured state. And they say, "What is this? What has happened? What has happened to you?" They ask her out of shock. And then, instead of narrating all that, Shurpanaka starts telling very eloquently, very poetically about the people whom she saw. In fact, Acharyas say here that Shurpanaka's description is so good that even Alvars may not be able to match it. So beautifully she says, Tarunau Rupa Sampannau Sukumarau Mahabalau Pundarika Vishalakshau Chira Krishnajinambarau Phalamula Dantau Tapasau Brahmacharinau Putrau Dasharathasyaitou Bhratarau Rama Lakshmanau. So she's saying that these two men, they are Taruna, they are young and they are very good looking, Rupa Sampanna. They are gentle and yet they have lot of strength. They have broad eyes like lotuses. They are dressed in these jute cloth and the barks of the trees, but they eat only fruits and tubers in the forest. And yet they are so calm and composed, and they are very wise people, and they are the sons of Dasharatha, that is, they are Rama and Lakshmana. So imagine she is in pain, she is having so much anger also, and yet so beautifully she is so overcome with the beauty, with the qualities of this Rama and Lakshmana, that she is describing them with such eloquence in this poetic manner. So hearing this, Kara and Dushana are shocked. They say, "What is this? How can it be like this?" And then she narrates that all what happened. First, she's telling how beautiful they are, how beautiful they are. Then they said, "Okay, fine, but let them be like that. But why you have been like this? Why is your nose and ears cut off?" And then she narrates the entire set of events that happened. So now they are also very angered. Now here, the Acharya called Perivachan Pillai tells in his commentary that when Shurpanaka was narrating these qualities of the brothers, different people had different emotions in their mind. Now, Shurpanaka, she was overcome with desire and she had so much lustful desire in her heart that she could see the two brothers, Rama and Lakshmana, full of beauty and full of all good qualities. Normally, we know, isn't it? They say that love is blind. And not to deny that Rama and Lakshmana are really so handsome and good looking and full of good qualities, but generally, when someone is having that kind of an infatuation for another person, then they appear very beautiful to them. So Shurpanaka is looking at the brothers from the viewpoint of their beauty. Now, when this same description that Shurpanaka told, when the people, the followers of Khara and Dushana, when those Rakshasas heard, they understood, they took that to mean that the two brothers are Mahabalo, they are very strong, and they are, when they said Chira Krishna Jinambaro, they have tied up their deer skin and everything, and they are ready to fight. That is how the Rakshasas took it. But what about Khara? When Khara heard this, he was full of arrogance of his own strength, and he thought, what some ordinary human being can be capable of matching my quality, my matching my strength. So for him, he thought when she's telling that they are Sukumara, he thought that, oh, they are very delicate, they don't have strength. Like that, he assumed. When she says Mahabalav, this Khara thought that she's saying Maha Abala, that they are cowards, they don't have strength to fight, they are not ready to engage in a fight. Like that, he assumed. So different people, based on what was their mental status, they understood this description of Shurpanaka in different ways. Now, because Khara thinks that, okay, that those two men, they have no capability at all. So he decides that our sister has been insulted. We have to avenge this insult to her. We have to avenge her humiliation. So all Rakshasas together, 14,000 of them, they go towards that ashrama where Rama, Sita, Lakshmana are, and they attack that place. Now, the minute Rama sees them, he tells Lakshmana that you take Sita and be inside the ashrama, I will manage these people. And single handedly, Rama destroys and kills every one of them except one fellow. One Rakshasa, he is worn his garment as if he is a woman. And Rama is so great that he will not even aim an arrow at somebody who is a woman. He will never ever fight any woman. So he spares that fellow, and that fellow's name is Akampana. Except that Akampana, all the other 13,999 Rakshasas actually, they are all killed by Rama single handedly. Now, here the Acharyas explained to us that Rama did not call upon any godly attribute of his. He did not use any divine power of his. Just with whatever qualities he had as a very expert archer, as a human being, as Rama, the son of Dasharatha and the disciple of Vasishta and Vishwamitra, with just these human attributes and qualities, he destroyed all those Rakshasas. Now, after having destroyed all of them, he returns and walks towards the ashrama. His body is completely covered by wounds and he is bleeding because it's been an intense fight. The minute she looks at this husband of hers, whom here it is described as Vijaya Raghava, he has won victory. That Raghava who was victorious over the Rakshasas. Sita is so thrilled to see him. And here Valmiki describes what is the action of Sita. Tam drishtva shatruhantaram maharshinaam sukavaham babhuva hrishta vaidehi bhartaram parishvaje. On seeing that husband, on seeing her bharta, on seeing her husband, the one who eliminated all the enemies, the one who brought joy to the sages, to the rishis, that Sita embraced her husband rejoicingly. Now, here, Acharyas point out, you remember when we talked about how Rama refused to take Sita into the forest when he started for Vanavasa, and he told her it is going to be very difficult in the forest. There will be wild animals, there will be Rakshasas. It is not so easy, and you should not come with me. You remember Sita had taunted him, and she had very sarcastically said that if my father comes to know that you are refusing to take me into the forest, saying all these things, then he will think that Striyam Purusha Vigraham, that Rama is actually a woman, but only looking like a man. So you are actually a woman in a man's body. Like that, Sita had taunted. Now, this same Sita, Rama has proved to her. The Acharyas explain here in a humorous way that ever since the day that Sita had said that, Rama was waiting for an opportunity to show his virya, to show his strength and capabilities. And today, finally, when these 14,000 Rakshasas attacked, Rama got a chance to redeem himself in the eyes of Sita. So, Sita, who had told him that very sarcastically, now she is thrilled to see that Rama has emerged victorious in this battle. Now, another thing here the Acharyas explain is here that description, how Valmiki is describing that he is Shatruhantara, he is the eliminator of the enemies, and the one who brings happiness, sukha, to the Maharshi, to the rishis. So, why Sita is happy? We have already said before that Sita is an embodiment of Mahalakshmi Devi. So, she was very much worried about the plight of those rishis who were in Dandakaranya. And you remember, we said that how when Rama seemed to have forgotten the promise he made to those rishis, she had jokingly told him that story and she had tried to incite him so that he gets into action and starts destroying the Rakshasas. So now, seeing that Rama has done that task, see for Sita, she considers those rishis also for her as Mahalakshmi Devi. Those rishis are like her children also. So any mother, when her children are unhappy, she is always unhappy. Now that Rama has killed the Rakshasas and there is nobody to trouble those rishis, like any mother, she is also happy now because Rama has kept the promise. He has made sure that there is no more danger to those rishis. So she is happy. And now she wonders. The Acharya says that in Janaki's mind, in this Sita's mind, there is this thought that, oh, if only my father got me married to this man because he lifted that bow of Shiva. He didn't do anything else. He only lifted the bow, and my father was so happy at that he gave me in marriage to him. Imagine if now my father had been here, if Janaka Raja had been here, and he had seen this parakrama of Rama, how much happy he would have been. And he would have been so happy. What reward would he have given? She wonders. And then she thinks, anyway, my father is not here now. And I am the one who has to reward Rama. What bigger reward can I give? I have to only give my embrace. And that's why, with so much joy and love, she embraces Rama after he turns back victorious from that fight. So, this is how this episode is explained. Now, let us see what happens further. This Rakshasa who was spared, that Akampana, he runs to Ravana and he narrates. Now, all these people are related, isn't it? They are all cousins. Ravana, Karadushana, Shurpanaka, and all of them. This Akampana, now he's terrorized. Seeing this Parakrama of Rama, he rushes to Ravana and he narrates that just see, there is one man. He's a mere man. He doesn't have any divine qualities. He doesn't have any, extra powers or magical powers. He's just a normal human being, but single-handedly he has destroyed all these so many Rakshasas of ours, and Ravana is shaken. How can a mere man do this? Ravana remembers at this point that he did not ask for immunity from human beings. When he had taken the vara from Brahma, he had said that no deity, no Gandharva, no Kindara, nobody else should be able to kill me. But he had thought that human beings are very low level. They don't deserve that recognition. So he had not asked that human beings should not be able to kill him. So now suddenly for a moment he is shaken and he determines that before this Rama does any more damage, I have to kill him. Also, he has launched this thing war against us, and I have to show him that the Rakshasas are superior to everybody. So I have to make sure that he is killed. I have to avenge the humiliation of Shurpanaka. I have to do that. So he says, I will go and kill him. At that point, Akampana says that that is impossible. He is invincible. I have seen how he has fought those 14,000 Rakshasas. If you go and try to kill him, there is no guarantee that you will succeed. You may not succeed in killing him. You cannot destroy him, says Akampana. And then Akampana tells him another idea. He says, but I saw that wife of his. She is so beautiful and she is his life itself. So you do one thing. You kidnap that wife. And then when you do that, this Rama will be so disheartened that he will be not able to live in separation from her. And in that sorrow of separation itself, he will die. Otherwise, it is very difficult for you to fight him in a battle. He is very great parakrami in the battle. You will not be able to destroy him in a fight. So this is what you have to do. Kidnap his wife, and then in separation from her, he will die by himself. So Ravana says, okay, that's a good plan. And then he goes to Maricha and he asks Maricha to help him with this plan. Now Maricha warns Ravana. Ravana, this is not correct. It is going to be dangerous if you do this. It is not going to do good things for you. So you please don't go ahead with this plan. Whoever has advised you this is not your friend. They are actually your enemy. You don't go ahead with this plan. So Ravana thinks, okay, fine. Maricha is a very wise person. He's an elderly person. Why Ravana went to Maricha? Because Maricha has all these Mayavi qualities. He can do a lot of magical things. So he wanted his help. Now Ravana decides, okay, Maricha is also advising. Fine, let me drop this plan. And he goes back. Just as he returns back to his palace, Shurpanaka rushes there. Now Shurpanaka tells him further. She narrates all those things. And along with telling about the Parakrama of Rama and Lakshmana, she incites the lust of Ravana. She tells him, you know that wife of Rama? She is such a beautiful woman. She is the one who is actually fit to be the, the queen of the entire world. And you know why Rama is so powerful? Because she is by his side. anybody who has this Sita on his side will be the conqueror and the ruler of all the worlds. That is guaranteed. She's so beautiful. She's like this, she's like that. She describes the beauty of Sita and her qualities in such detail that, picturizing all that, Ravana is now filled with kama. He wants to possess this beautiful woman. And once that lust is incited in him, he rushes back to Maricha and he insists that Maricha should help him to get that Sita. Now his focus has changed. He is no longer, before Shurpanakha came there, because Shurpanakha had been humiliated, because Karadushana and everybody had been killed, he wanted to take revenge by killing Rama. That was his only plan. That was the only thought in his head. But now when Shurpanakha came there, and she told him about the beauty of Sita, that lust was evoked in Ravana, and now his entire outlook has changed. He wants to make sure that he gets Sita to him and he is able to enjoy her. He is no longer bothered about Rama and destroying Rama. He only wants to attain Sita at any cost. So now he goes back to Maricha and he forces Maricha that he has to help him in this venture. What happens next, what Maricha tells, we will see in tomorrow's satsang. But from these events of today, what are the things that we can understand? What are the messages for us? We will see that. Now, as we said, Acharya explained that when Shurpanakha was talking, describing the qualities of Rama and Lakshmana, Shurpanakha was filled with desire. So she saw one thing in them. The Khara and Dushana, when they heard, they were full of arrogance of their own power. They heard it in another way. And the followers of Khara Dushana, who were just merely soldiers, they heard Shurpanakha telling the qualities that Rama and Lakshmana are very powerful. So, like this, it is one single thing that Shurpanakha has said. And yet, based on what is the mental state of the listener, they have got different meanings out of it. So here the acharyas explain that for us also, many times what we listen to, we don't hear what exactly the person is telling, because in our mind we have a particular state of mind. We are thinking of certain things, or we have a particular nature, and based on our nature, we will say what that thing means to us. So we need to make sure that always when we are listening to somebody, we should be able to cut off our emotion from it. We should be able to remove our what you say sentimental attachment in that, and listen and understand the message for what exactly it is. Okay. Then we said that when Rama finished fighting all and killing all those Rakshasas, he turned back to the ashram and his body was filled with wounds and cuts, and there was blood streaming from them. Now we know that the Lord has a body which is not made up of prakriti and material elements like our human body. The Lord's form is said to be a Divya Mangala Vigraha. It is made up of Shuddha Sattva. Only Sattva is the composition of the Lord's body. So it is not like a human body. Human body, if it is hit by an arrow, it will bleed and all that. Why did Rama's body also behave like that? Isn't Rama divine in nature? Yes, he is. He is an avatara of the Lord. But in this Rama avatara, Rama does not want to show his divine nature. We have seen this already in multiple incidents, isn't it? So Rama does not want to show that he is an avatara. So he is behaving entirely and completely like a human being. And that is why, just like any human body would bleed when there is a cut and wound, Rama's body is also bleeding in that same way. This is just a drama which is in which Rama is playing the role which he has taken up. So he plays that role to perfection. So since he is in a human form, he takes on this body which is like a human body, and when he finishes fighting, he is wounded and bleeding. That is what the Lord is doing here. Now, when Sita saw Rama and she was so happy that he has destroyed the Rakshasas, we said that she rushed and she embraced her husband. Now, normally, this is not the kind of behavior that Pativrata women do, isn't it? I mean, they will embrace their husband, but not in public, not show their affection like this in the open when so many other people are around. Now, of course, there was only Lakshmana, but still, this is not the kind of behavior that Pativrata women were doing in those times. However, in this case, Sita embraces Rama very openly. Why? Because this is an exceptional case. One, It is to celebrate that great victory that Rama has achieved over the Rakshasas. So this is one thing. The second, and what Acharyas explained, the deeper meaning is that we said Rama's body is covered with wounds, and he must be in pain from those wounds also. So, who is this Sita? She is the daughter of Bhumi Devi. She was born, she came from the earth, isn't it? Now, Bhumi Devi has all herbs. We know that all so many medicinal herbs grow on the soil, grow from the soil. So, this Bhumi Devi's daughter, Sita, who has all these herbs on her body, she embraced Rama, and by her mere touch, because she has all those herbs on her body, by the mere touch of Sita's arms, all those wounds on Rama's body got healed. Because Sita is none other than Bhumi Devi, and the herbs on her body healed those wounds on Rama's body. That is what the Acharyas explain. Now, here when they talked, when in that Valmiki shloka, he has used this word called Bharta, right? So, Bhartaram Parishvaje, she embraced her husband. So, Bharta means husband. Now, Acharya say Bharta, this husband, is not for Sita alone, isn't it? Rama is after all none other than Narayana himself. And then that means he is not husband of only Sita. We said in the previous satsang that how Rama, the Lord, is the only Purusha. He is the husband for the entire universe, isn't it? So that word Bharta, which Valmiki has used here, indicates that he is the husband of the entire universe, and he is the one who, when we say Bharta, it can also mean the one who carries the bhara, the one who bears the burden. So it is the Lord who is bearing this entire universe. That also is indicated by this word Bharta. Then further we can see when Shurpanaka went there, when Akampana went there, not Shurpanaka, when Akampana went to Ravana and told him that all these our Rakshasas were killed and 14,000 of them, everybody is dead except me, and so on. Ravana got angry that they were killed, but it never came to his mind to ask Akampana that why all this happened. Why was this, what you say, slaughter of all these Rakshasas done by Rama? What is the reason why those Rakshasas went there to fight? Why did they go to fight? What was it that Shurpanaka did? He didn't know all that. He never bothered to ask. The minute he was told that the Rakshasas were killed, he flew into a rage. And that is what we always must be careful about. Whenever somebody brings some bad news to us, we need to look and beyond. Rather than getting carried away with anger at the bad news, we need to analyze and see why that happened. And then we need to use our viveka, our discretion, to understand where the problem lies. Like that, we can understand from this Ravana's incident. Now, the last point, we said that first Ravana went to Maricha saying that he wanted his help to kill Rama. When Maricha told him, don't even attempt that, that is not possible, you better give up this idea, Ravana returned back. He listened to the advice of Maricha at first. But later, once Shurpanaka fanned the lust in the mind of Ravana, then he lost all Viveka completely. He lost all power of discrimination. Normally, the Acharyas say this Ravana used to always consult his ministers for everything. But in this case, the minute he heard Shurpanaka telling about Sita and he felt that desire to possess her, now his Viveka is completely gone. He has no power of discrimination. He is not knowing what to think. He is only carried away with that lustful emotion. And then he does not consult his ministers. He does not ask anybody, but he rushes back to Maricha. And now he forces that Maricha should help him to kidnap Sita. So what we can understand from this is, the Acharyas say that when there is no lust in the mind, our behavior is different. But when we get carried away with lust, then our mind behaves differently. Now, in this case, of course, Ravana's lust was for physical enjoyment. Generally, this word, when we are saying in English, we are saying lust. What we refer to is kama. So, kama can be desire of any kind. Any strong desire for anything in the world is kama. So, it need not be only the kind of sexual desire that is indicated here. It is desire, a strong desire for anything in this world, any object, any person in this world. So that we have to understand that whenever there are some strong desires that evolve, that come out in our mind, then those are the times when we have to be very careful, because in pursuit of that object of our desire, we are ready to throw everything else aside. We put all our discrimination power away. We don't have the power of thinking anymore. And then once we stop thinking, then we do all wrong actions. And just like Ravana, this was the starting point. This was the step that he took, and he went towards Vinasha. So, like that, our condition also will be if we let lust, desire overpower our mind. So, we must be careful that we don't do this like Ravana. So, these are some of the things that we talked and we learnt about regarding today's events in this satsang. Let us offer gratitude to the Lord, to the Acharyas for guiding us in this manner, and let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. मङ्गलं कोसलेन्द्राय महनीयगुणाब्धये चक्रवर्तीतनूजाय सार्वभौमाय मङ्गलं वेदवेदान्तवेद्याय मेघश्यामलमूर्तये पुंसां मोहनरूपाय पुण्यश्लोकाय मङ्गलं पितृभक्ताय सततं भ्रातृभिः सह सीतया नन्दिताखिललोकाय रामभद्राय मङ्गलं श्रीमते रघुवीराय सेतुलङ्घितसिन्धवे जितराक्षसराजाय रणधीराय मङ्गलं मङ्गलाशासनपरैर्मदाचार्यपुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम्. Thank you, everybody. We'll meet again tomorrow and see what happens next in this story. Namaskar.